Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And you can always guarantee one thing with the SNP. Without fail, every time they will do the wrong thing. They've got no money. They are bankrupt, morally as well as financially. And everything they do goes wrong. And despite advice from every professional in the field, providing, their excellent input into this matter, and everyone saying that their approach they're doing is wrong, the SNP are being very, very reckless, is the words that's being used, in pushing through a £1.2 billion national care service. Now, they're £1.5 billion in the hole. Perhaps if they weren't spending £1.2 billion on something that doesn't need to be spent on, they could fill the black hole and maybe not destroy everything. But again, this is a centralisation of power. This is a power grab so that they can remove care facilities and things like that from a local government level to centralise it. They're trying to remove yet again more powers from local democracy, from local councils, from local accountability, and bring it into the government. So it's all run by a minister and not by anyone that is directly elected by the people for whom it concerns. Yet again, another cynical power grab. And given the history that the SNP have got with every single thing they've ever attempted in their entire lives, it's going to fail. Only this is going to fail to the tune of billions of pounds. Let's take a look. So, shady SNP pushed through reckless £1.2 billion national care service plans despite stark criticism. But stark criticism from health professionals, from care professionals, from all the councils are saying, why are you removing this from us? We are closer to the people. We know what's needed in our areas. Rather than going up into one giant monolithic department that does not know what's going on, has no understanding of the needs of any particular area, and is just going to be sitting there, and it'll be a postcode lottery designed and controlled by some inadequate minister who doesn't know what they're doing. See every other department in government to see how that always works out well. The Scottish Government managed to force through its hated National Care Service Bill, which could cost the public purse more than £1 billion, with legislation remaining mostly incomplete. And I think this is another one where really Westminster has got to pull this one back. It's undemocratic, which is bad. It's expensive, which is worse. And it's going to fail, which is the final nail in the coffin. And it isn't just going to fail because it's not going to work. It's going to fail spectacularly in terms of people who need care are going to suffer. Without fail, people will suffer. And then they'll say it's Westminster's fault. No, Westminster don't want you to do this. You're choosing to do it in the face of everyone who knows what they're talking about saying no. And then, of course, you're going to have all the contracts that will go out, and it'll be who's doing this and who's doing that. Who are the contracts going to? Your mates. Guarantee that's going to be the case. The Scottish Government were accused of being shady after pushing through reckless care service plans, despite concerns about it becoming majorly changed through secondary legislation. The whole process has been predicted to cost more than £1 billion and has been criticised by councils, unions and users of the service. No one benefits from this, no one at all, and yet they want to do it because they don't like the idea of someone out there having power and not them. And that's why they're slowly pulling all these things back. Powers from the council, powers back all the time. They want to basically make councils pointless and have a complete centralised economy, much like the Soviet Union, and see how well that worked out. It will centralise the adult social care system, but what it will look like remains a mystery due to the SNP executive using the process of co-design to create it, with a framework bill being passed on Thursday. Now, adult social care, that's the important thing here. They were given £45 million by Westminster for adult social care, which they're now not going to pass on to various councils because the various councils are saying, no, we're not doing your council fees. So that means that instead of local councils being able to care for people, you're now going to have people who desperately need care in a local authority that will not receive care because the government said, no, we're not giving you that care money. We're not giving that council the care money. No, 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 no. We're not doing that because that's the wrong kind of council. They disagreed with us. Yes, okay, some people will suffer, they'll say, but that's a price worth paying for the centralisation and total control and micromanagement of every single person in Scotland. It's time for a change. It's time for a new regime. It's time for a completely new type of governance of Scotland. And you cannot allow micromanagement with every single aspect of people's lives, all controlled at the whim of some unelected, well, elected but incompetent minister who hasn't got a clue what they're doing. The plans have also been plagued with delays amid major changes to tweak the governance structure of the service, with local authorities now retaining responsibility for social care staff and assets, while regional care boards, originally proposed instead, becoming a single national one, monolithic, as I said. Opposition parties combined to vote against the bill, but the SNP got it through thanks to help from the Scottish Greens. Many believe that the substantial amount of money could be spent elsewhere on improvements, with Holyrood committees slating the legislation for missing information. Whoever comes in must reverse this immediately. Day one, cancel it, stop it immediately, and hand these powers back to local authorities. This is absolutely terrible. The only people who will benefit will be the ministers, because they'll be given a little bit of extra power to inveigle themselves and control the lives of vulnerable people all across Scotland. They can say who gets help and who doesn't. They say who deserves it. They'll say the contracts go to, and then pick a friend and things like that. There is no control. There's no oversight. And like everything else within the SNP, it's going to fail badly. I'm going to say that this will kill people. And in advance, if we know in advance and we tell them in advance that this will kill people and they do it and people die, then they, I would suggest, have committed murder. Because they know in advance what they're doing is going to harm people, and still they did it knowingly, in full advanced knowledge of it. That's murder. Scottish Conservative Shadow Health Secretary Dr Sandesh Gillane said the SNP plans for a centralised care service were doomed to fail from the very beginning. Instead of diverting much needed resources towards cash-strapped local care services, which are in crisis on the SNP's watch, ministers are determined to continue throwing money at their reckless centralised care proposals. The concerns of carers and those who rely on them are very different depending on where they are in Scotland, which is why a local approach towards care must be the way forward. And he is absolutely right. The care needs of two people with the same condition are going to be different if you're in a busy city or if you're in a remote village, because the facilities aren't there, the transport isn't there, all sorts of different problems. People having to come further to check on health visits and things like that. Majorly different. The shady SNP said are keeping the public and MSPs in the dark to the point that it is difficult to know what we are debating. He said being asked to vote on this bill without knowing exactly what we're voting on is like buying a car without knowing the make, model or colour. The majority of unions also refused to back the bill due to issues with how it will actually work. Ultimately, the unions are the ones that are going to have to bring this down. And this is one of these things where the unions will have to strike. I don't mean this genuinely. I don't normally do it. But I think in this case, the unions will be right to strike because they're not striking for their own benefit. This time, they'd be striking for the safety of people. This is something they'd be striking to benefit the people of Scotland. Do it. He said there's so little detail on what the Scottish Government is planning that the union believes the Parliament is being asked to buy what amounts to be a pig in a poke. Regional Secretary Lillian Mesa said passing this bill wouldn't just be bad for those needing a properly functioning care system. It would be a bad day for democracy. MSPs are being told to vote for plans they haven't even seen, far less asked anyone about. It's treating Parliament and everyone else with contempt. MSPs deserve better. And yet no one in the Greens, no one in the SNP stood up and voted against it. So they're all complacent now in corporate murder. People will die, and that will be corporate murder. Social Care Minister Marie Todd defended the plans because what else is she going to do? It's her job. The National Board will give us a level of transparency that's not possible in the current system. You're not transparent. How dare you talk about transparency? And of course, when you say it's not transparent in the current system, what you mean is it's down to local governments and you can't control it. It's got sod all to do with transparency. It's because you don't know what's happening and you don't like not knowing. You're power mad. You are megalomaniac narcissists. And you are corrupt and you are dangerous. I don't even go and read the rest of that. She's going to talk bollocks about how great and wonderful it is as people die. That woman there is now responsible for deaths of people in Scotland. I hope when the first death happens, they sue her for murder. Coming up. When the vast proportion of people are against something, and the experts are against it, and the unions are against it, and the people whom it directly affects are against it, the wise course is to step back and say, why? Why are people so against it? But that's not the SNP way. The SNP way is to say, no, we will continue anyway. Firstly, because we're never wrong. And secondly, because it's got nothing to do with care and everything to do with centralising all power and authority and removing councils effectively. Ultimately, in the end, the game plan is there will be no local councils. You will vote your MSP in, and then eventually after that, they'll just be appointed. You won't even get the vote. There will be no democracy. It will be a single party Marxist state ruled by diktat. That's the plan. And that's why they keep trying to centralise power and remove it from councils, till effectively they'll say there's no need for a council. Good luck, Scotland. If you don't get rid of this, people will die. People you know will die. And they'll walk away. The SNP will walk away and go, well, it's Westminster's fault, isn't it? Because that's what they always do. But this isn't Westminster's fault. From now on, we know that this is the SNP's fault. And at the moment, Marie Todd, she's the one to blame. She's the one pushing this through. She needs to stop this now. And every single member, and I mean Kate Forbes, I mean Fergus Ewing, all of them are now complicit. Even what you'd think are the good guys of the SNP, and there's not many of them, but even they now are going to be complicit in corporate murder. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and for heaven's sake, make sure you get rid of this SNP murderous, narcissistic, megalomaniac, cretinous, incompetent, corrupt criminals, and never allow them near power again. Bye.